There had been no environmental work. There was not a plan, but yet we had a bridge that was decades old and decades into the period when it needed to be replaced. And so I welcome the assistance from the federal government to help make this replacement a reality. And now I want to invite the man of the hour, the secretary, to come up and give you all some remarks and explain to you why he chose to come to Lake Charles today. So if you would, please help me make welcome Secretary Buttigieg. Thank you so much.
Thanks very much, Governor. Thank you. Well, thank you very much, Governor. Thanks to all of you. It's a real pleasure to be here, and I want to thank you for lining up such a beautiful day. Mayor, when I was mayor, I always said that if it was bad weather, I said it was the county was in charge, and if it was good weather, I said it was us. So I don't know if you got to have words with your parish police council or not, but to all of you, thanks for the welcome. Look, we want to work with every state and territory in the country, and we do. But it makes a big difference to work with a governor who understands the importance of infrastructure. And that is certainly the case here, Governor Edwards, with your leadership, and it's made a big difference in this partnership. So thank you. Mayor, I want to thank you for leading your community through good times and challenging times. The job has not gotten any easier since I proudly wore the title of mayor. And your readiness to work in a bipartisan fashion with this administration, with anybody who can benefit Lake Charles, reflects so well on you and your team. I know we have the mayor of Westlake here, as well as state, parish, and other leaders, and we know that it takes collaboration across every level of government to get good things done. As part of why we're here. I want to thank Sean Wilson, who has been a terrific partner, both in his capacity leading the state DOTD and as the leader of AASHTO, the National Association of State Departments of Transportation, at a moment when state departments of transportation have had more to talk about and work on and act on than any time in our lifetimes. It's been such a pleasure to work with you. And I really take to heart and appreciate this safety pledge. We are facing a crisis when it comes to safety on American roadways. We can do something about it. We are doing something about it. And no one level of government, no jurisdiction, no entity can do it alone, which is why we have this call to action and why that pledge means so much. I know there are a lot of friends from the unions and the building trades here. Thank you for being here. We are excited about all the good paying union jobs that are going to come out of this and the other work in the infrastructure law. Being here, that we are not just building roads and bridges, we're building livelihoods, we're building family savings, we're building those pathways into the middle class that are so important, and you were at the heart of that. And I want to mention that I had a good conversation with Senator Cassidy on the way down here. He can't be here because of responsibilities he has in the Senate, but I want to recognize his vision in reaching across the aisle, working with President Biden to make today possible. Our president often says that there's no such thing as a Democrat or Republican bridge, and this is a good reminder of that, and I'm so appreciative of the senator and of everybody who helped to make this a reality. Also had a conversation on the way over with Mitch Landrieu, my colleague, who does so much to help make sure that this infrastructure bill is rolling out well, who educated me on the proper pronunciation of Calcasieu. Hope I got that right. As well as on everything that this region has been through. And everybody knows, whether they have a direct connection to this region or not, if you're paying attention to American infrastructure, you know how important this bridge is, certainly to jobs and to waterfront attractions and to quality of life here in Southwest Louisiana, but also to a supply chain that impacts the entire country. And as was mentioned earlier, this is a bridge that, as important as it is today, is still relying on construction from just after World War II. Structurally and functionally deficient today, built to handle far fewer than the 80,000 daily crossings that are happening. And because of the way I-10 narrows from 6 lanes to 4, and the steep 4 lanes at that, it creates a lot of delays and contributes to a crash rate that's about 66% higher than what is typical in this state. And I want to recognize that this does come in the context of what this region has faced and the resilience that this region has shown. I saw the Weather Channel refer to Lake Charles as America's most weather-battered city. Now, President Biden was proud to deliver over $1 billion to Louisiana in disaster recovery funds, but he knows we can't stop there. And as Calcasieu Bridge has been considered the primary bottleneck affecting evacuation efforts during many of those recent weather emergencies, that just gives us one more reason to have a sense of urgency around this work. Now, I recognize that a lot of people have been working on this for well over 20 years, waiting for the right kind of partnership from Washington. And I remember the news reports during that visit that each of those who spoke before me mentioned when President Biden was standing not far from where we were today. And immediate reaction that sort of said, okay, we're glad you're here, but you're about the umpteenth politician to come here and say we were actually going to get this bridge done. In fact, one local journalist, and I'm not sure if it was one of you, wrote at the time of the visit, here we go again. So there's been a lot of waiting. A lot of promises here and across the country. Infrastructure weeks, as they were called, that came and went without result, which is why that skepticism happened. If words could build bridges, we would have got this done a long time ago. But talk doesn't build bridges. Funding does. Cooperation between different political parties and levels of government does. And on those fronts, the leaders you see here and our president, Joe Biden, are delivering. We heard loud and clear that our generational moment of investment in America's transportation infrastructure has to mean a generational investment here in Southwest Louisiana. And that is why, less than 2 years since President Biden was here, drawing attention to this bridge and America's infrastructure needs, we are so proud to award $150 million to help Louisiana build a new Calcasieu Bridge for future generations. That new bridge is going to be wider, with 6 lanes, shoulders, a less steep approach, improved on-ramps. And over the lifespan of that new bridge, it's estimated to save people about 115 million hours in travel time. It's projected to have 457 fewer crashes in this area because of those new designs. 457 times a family is not going to have to get that phone call. The nature of safety work is its most successful moments are things that don't happen. So you never know the names of the people who will be spared that terrible phone call. But it could well be one of us. It's also going to help with those extreme weather evacuations. It's going to allow first responders to get to where they need to be more swiftly and more safely. And the benefits go well beyond where we're standing, to shelves across Louisiana, across the country. This new bridge is relieving one of the worst freight bottlenecks in America along one of the most important supply chain routes in America, so that goods can move quicker, and that is part of our fight against inflation. As I mentioned earlier, to build a bridge, you need funding, and you also need a lot of skill. You need a lot of work. This bridge project is going to lead to over 16,000 jobs. And companies are going to be required to submit plans for training and hiring from the local community, making sure underserved populations get included in that opportunity. And this is just one example of the Mega Projects Fund that was created by President Biden's infrastructure law. We just finished that first year's worth of funding. And I want to make sure you know, just as a point of pride, how competitive this round was. We got 138 applications, and we were able to fund 9 successful projects, including this one. So it reflects very well on everybody who's part of putting this plan together. And there is a direct line, a cause and effect, between that bill that Senator Cassidy and Representative Carter voted for and the shovels that are going to be in the ground building this new bridge. And I've noticed even the members of Congress who did not vote for this bill have been very happy to see the benefits of the projects coming to their neighborhood. And this isn't just the only thing we're funding in this area. We awarded funds just last week, as was mentioned, to help the city of Lake Charles develop designs to make the road safer. And I want to thank the mayor and the city for their commitment to safety along with the state. Last year, we awarded funds to build 2 new passenger boarding bridges at Lake Charles Regional Airport. And those are just a handful of 20,000 good projects underway across the country. That is what President Biden's vision for building a better America looks like. It's part of that strategy to build our economy from the bottom up and the middle out, and the strategy's working. I had the privilege of a front row seat, actually it was a second row seat, but still pretty good, on Tuesday night as the president described to the country what has been achieved. Unemployment, the lowest it's been in 54 years. Union membership growing again. wages up, inflation down. And as a child of the industrial Midwest, I'm especially glad to see how manufacturing is coming roaring back in this country. 800,000 new manufacturing jobs created since President Biden took office. A number that's going to go further with investments in industries that are growing, including jobs coming to Vidalia with a new EV battery manufacturing plant. And those American-made products, built in America, made in America, sold in America and around the world, are now going to move across stronger supply chains like the new Calcasieu Bridge. We are literally building the future of this country, and now we got to finish the job. We are in the business of building bridges, literal and figurative, that are going to make us and future generations better off. So I'm so glad that we can be here to mark this milestone together. Congratulations and thanks to everybody who got us here, and thanks in advance for the hard work that is going to come so that we can come back here for ribbon cutting and celebrate an excellent completed project. Thank you again for the chance to be here. All right, and I think we have time for a few reporter questions. Carrie from our department is quarterbacking, and I think you're up first.
Secretary Pete, the community is obviously thrilled with the $150 million, but they applied for $600 million. And so what everyone wants to know is this other $450 million in the works? Do you expect us to get it from the federal government? And when do you predict we'll see a new bridge over there?
So on project timelines and dates, I'm going to defer to the state. But I know they've done a lot of good thinking and work on how to make the most of the federal dollars we can bring and put together, as was mentioned, the right combination of other funding sources to make it happen. Dr. Wilson, you want to speak a little more to that?
So, yeah, great question. We started this project far in advance of the bipartisan infrastructure law, as the governor said, not having any resources to be able to build this project. The state put up the first 85. We did ask for $600 million, and I think you saw the competitiveness that the secretary talked about, having funded 9 of 138 applications, and very few of them got, if any, in this particular pot, got 100% of what they've asked for. And that's been the standard for discretionary programs through USDOT for a number of years. But this was the third largest mega grant application, and because of the timing and the urgency to have a bridge, we believe that the model that we pursued in terms of a public-private partnership and the $800 million that we have plus the $40 million a year will give us more than what we need to maximize the ability to keep tolls low on that project and to deliver it and build in a model for additional revenue that states and locals and other entities might want to contribute to that. So we're very satisfied with the $150 million. It's the largest we've ever received, and it's going to go a long way to make this bridge a reality. Without it, we would not be in a position to offer what I believe will be the most reasonable all of the above toll opportunity for citizens across this country to take advantage of, not just residents here in Lake Charles.
Great. You think it'll be in my lifetime?
So absolutely, I think it'll be in your lifetime. With all that we have done in the last 5 years, and I will acknowledge the innovative procurement team and the DOTD engineering staff and the project manager, Paul Vaught, over there, who've managed this over the last 2 years. We're going to receive proposals in the second quarter of this year. I'm nodding, right, Paul? Okay. And then we will make decisions in the summer of this year, and we will have a contract signed with a developer before the end of 2023, provided we have an acceptable toll rate that's available to the public. That will be under contract this year for the design, financing, construction, and operations of this project. And from that point, I think we're at 6 to 7 years of construction, but that's going to be a part of the bids. We calculate that and factor that in the evaluation process. So this is more real than ever before, and any other approach, from my professional experience and those who do these types of mega projects, and the Secretary has really created a new opportunity to help communities deliver mega projects. Without this approach, I do not see this bridge moving forward, given the vast cost and the risk associated with building it.
Thank you.
And our next question is from Elena with Advocate.
Hi, Secretary Buttigieg. The U.S. interstate system has traditionally been free. This bridge has a toll likely attached to it. Should Americans expect to see more tolls on the interstate system going forward? And what are your thoughts on implementing payments to travel on the interstate system?
Well, the interstate system is national, but conditions vary from one local area to another. I grew up about a mile from 8090 passing through Indiana, where we didn't know it as 8090, we knew it as the toll road, because that's how it's kept up. Other areas don't rely on that source of funding, but maybe do rely on a higher level of gas tax or other funding sources that are part of the partnership that keeps it going. Part of what we aim for in the U.S. Department of Transportation is to meet local states and communities where they are, dealing with the realities on the ground and coming up with the most responsible means of funding infrastructure. And we recognize that that's going to look different from state to state. But what we also know is a lot of these things couldn't get out of the starting box unless there was a higher level of federal funding. That's why it was so important to the president, so important to the country, and so important to a lot of people on both sides of the aisle who worked with us to get those federal dollars that are going to make the difference. And that's part of why we're so excited to bring this $150 million here to Southwest Louisiana.
All right, our last question is from Dawson with KLFY.
How's it going? I'm not really sure who can answer the question, but I'm sure we can figure it out. I was reading up a lot on the bridge and I understand there was a lot of poor ratings in the past. I was just wanting to see how we would be able to meet the standards, up-to-date standards to be able to get a proper bridge and be able to have a good structure for, say, 50 years down in the future.
Sounds like a good question for Dr. Wilson.
We have my local TV station. So the bridge does have ratings, and when you build an infrastructure 70 years old, there's only so much that you can do from 70 years ago to bring it up to speed to today's standard. It's important for you to note, and you may remember this, we just spent, I want to say $68 million rehabbing the main deck of the 210 bridge to ensure its viability in terms of an alternative. And prior to that, we maintained the existing structure with a major overhaul for maintenance to ensure its public safety first and foremost. If the bridge was unsafe, it would be closed. And so while we cannot necessarily just add shoulders, reduce the steepness, widen the lanes, eliminate the height restriction. Those are things that we cannot do, but the bridge has been adequately maintained, but recognize that it's not going to get better until it gets replaced, and that's why we're moving forward. The other thing I will tell you is it's much more expensive for us to maintain that bridge than it will be for a new bridge, because this new bridge will be the best maintained bridge in the state of Louisiana for the foreseeable future. And so we can't guarantee that the ratings are going to change on this bridge, but we are absolutely committed to ensuring its safe usage during construction and ultimately with seeing its retirement and removal from where you see it today.
And that concludes our questions. Thanks, everyone.
Thanks again for having us out. We're really excited.
All right, Mr. Secretary, an honor again. Thank you. Thank you. Safe travels. Okay, we'll do.
Especially when you do that.